Hello and welcome to the 4th episode of Inside the Majors podcast, presented by Kinetic Racing. I'm your host, Wade Hayes. Joining me today are Mike Ollett, John King, and Alliance team boss, Jason Fleischli. Our show comes to you today from the Milwaukee Mile, originally a dirt track hosting its first race in 1903 and was paved 65 years ago in 1954. The track is located on the grounds of the Wisconsin State Fair Park in West Allis, Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee. Milwaukee hosted a watershed race for IndyCar. After their narrow defeat at the Indy 500 in 1963, Jim Clark and the Lotus team stayed in America and raced at Milwaukee with Dan Gurney in a second Lotus entry. This was a showcase of how superior the rear-engine cars were to the Roadsters, as Clark lapped the field on his way to claiming the first IndyCar race won by a rear-engine car. All right, the session is open. We have some takers in this final round qualifying. Hey, John, who should we be looking for here?
I'm not sure, to be honest, because a lot of the action seems to have happened in the qualifying session 4 hours ago. But John Medeiros is around, and I think he'll be pushing to try and get a pro slot. Apart from that, we're just gonna have to wait and see who shows up.
Yeah, maybe you can go into. We were talking before the show. The session maybe 4 hours ago was really the big one. Maybe you can run down through that. Who did we think we were going to see, and who actually showed up 4 hours ago?
Well, pretty much everyone that we thought. So Travis Walling put in a brilliant time, and a lot of the top 10 in America sorted itself out. So we've got pretty much the grid that we expected. There's a couple of people on the bubble that we don't normally expect to see there, like Kevin Hill is right on the bubble. He's already had 2 attempts, so whether he tries again in this session is debatable. We'll just have to see.
So as far as looking at the splits across America and Europe, are we thinking both of them are going to split?
Mike's probably better at answering that than I am.
All right, we'll give that a go. We'll come back to that one then. Maybe a better question for you is around the international race. It seems like maybe you had a better round this time. Can you give us an update on how that went?
Yeah, the race was really good in all sorts of ways.
Can you hear me, guys? Sorry.
We can hear you, Mike.
Okay, sorry. Let me know if you want me to jump in.
All right, welcome to the
Okay,
group,
so
Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
okay, so the international race was good in all sorts of ways.
You can have to mute it, Wade. There you go. It's not going to work from your phone, Mike, I don't think.
Okay, should I try again now?
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, the international race was great. The racing was really, really good, which I was a bit worried about because it's so difficult to pass here. And we had a bit of a rough one at Michigan, to be honest. But everyone learned their lesson, and the racing was good. Everyone gave each other a little bit of room. For me and Kinetic, it was an awesome result. We finished 1, 2, 3. Marco Moglen won. Dean Moll was second, and I managed to finish third. I had an awesome race because Marco and Dean were pretty quick, and they were sort of pulling away from everybody. But I was the third fastest car on the track, but only just, and I was fighting my way all the way through the race. So it was really, really awesome race. And I think we put on a good show for the broadcast.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, I needed a good result. I've melted down the last 3 or 4 rounds, so I needed to get up there.
Well, we got Sealstad going right now. He's trying to improve his time and get in. Well, looks like he's got a 29.90. That might be good enough.
That hopefully will be
should
good
be
enough.
good
He was
enough.
just outside, right? He was sitting
He
around
was
30th, right?
Yeah, he was on the bubble before the second to last session 2 hours ago with a 30.1. Looks like he's sorted out his issues, doing some more practice, and that should be good enough to get in.
Yeah, I think anything in the 29s is going to get you close, and definitely a low 29.9 will be in.
I tell you what, with the little bit of technical difficulties that we've had with Mike and a bit of echo with John, I might just jump down a little bit, and let's just talk, Jason and I, about Alliance Racing and who you guys are and where you guys came from.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So, the team history in the series, back in 2015, there wasn't any formal team racing in what was then the Pacific Majors, right? And but I think what Mike noticed is that we did have some formalized teams, with several guys that belonged to a team outside of the majors, running in and racing and really doing, having the full benefit of that team backing, right? And I think Mike in 2016 decided, hey, let's just open that up so that we can encourage, all our other members to form up into teams together and just to have that benefit. I mean, one of the teams, the past teams I was, the real example was TNT Racing, and I'm not even sure that they're a formal team anymore anywhere in the service. They certainly don't run in the majors anymore, which is too bad. There were some good guys on that team, but yeah. So Alliance formed in 2016 with that new team's introduction, and it was gonna be 5 guys, and so I specifically went after guys in the standings that ran all the events, ran them with skill and respect, and struck a balance in the overall goal of an alliance of road and oval strength, and that's what it was about. So the first guy I approached was Mike Smitty Smith, who was an oval specialist. I was obviously more of a road specialist guy, but I have a lot of oval history, just not just iRacing, or not in iRacing itself. And I thought that would be a good start for that balance. And then he and I together, went after the rest of the core guys that are Alliance today, and that was Ryan Toma and Brian Bennett, and of course Lionel Callisto. And as we approached each one, they came on board, and as far as that core group, the rest is history with that. So it was originally formed of just all majors participants, right? Nobody from the outside. And then in 2017, we wanted to add a development program and team, so we created Evolution and scouted the new signups that as Mike began growing this thing and the expansion and everything, and out of that I handpicked both Clement and Thunhorst from those new signups that year, and invited them on board. And after we did interviews with both Smitty and myself, and those 2 guys worked out pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I would say so. How many
No,
championships in whole do you guys have?
they're both useless. You should chuck them out of the team, Jason.
Okay. Yeah, Thunhorst was definitely an under the radar guy, and Clem at the time was brand new to the service. With his racing history was really in pro remote control cars. So I just thought that was really interesting. He caught my eye with, I watched him run inside or outside of the majors and do some things, and I could just tell he had the right stuff, right? Even though he'd only been on the service like literally 2-3 months when I approached him. So, but he was ready to jump in, and it's been really awesome to actually have that development program succeed, right? And they cut their teeth at 17, and they showed the right, effort, character into the team that I was looking for, and went right up the ladder, and got put them on the primary squad basically as soon as I could, and they've just been killing it ever since then. I'm super proud of both of those guys. And then we filled out the rest of that team with the other regulars that I knew well out of the majors that always showed up, had potential, were available, and that was Slavonic, Fleming, Herzog. Later, Jimbo joined on to us when his ride with his former Northwest Club-based team didn't really fulfill him or didn't work out for him. So that's how we got Jimbo. So currently we're 14 active members. Due to the 2019 rules changes, really, because I had to split into 2 primary teams because, a lot of my guys were over the cap, right, to be able to run on a junior team. And so yeah, we took on some new blood for that. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, so you brought up something kind of interesting there around what you look for as far as a driver and a teammate, and just not just the driving, but how they react and how they act on the track. I suspect that it's actually very similar to what we look for at Kinetic, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on when you're evaluating a new driver, or when you've come across somebody. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I try to sum this up. I'm not really looking for the fastest, most talented guy. That certainly helps if you fit all the other criteria. But it's just that you don't have too many outside distractions. Obviously things are stable for you, unlike they have been for me this year, over the last 2 seasons really. But things are stable, and you got the right mentality. How you conduct yourself, both on the track and outside of the events, is important. And recognize that you're representing your team, whether it be forums, Discord, whatever, with everything that you do and say when you sign on to a team. You need to take that team's reputation into account, think before you do things. So, and for me, at this level in iRacing, all of you guys, everybody who runs this, and all sim racers in iRacing, they're serious, they're passionate about it, right? Or otherwise you wouldn't be on iRacing. And so, everybody is brothers in sim racing to me. I literally mean that. And so, I just mutual respect is a huge thing to me. And besides that, I just really don't get into calling people out, over the radio while you're racing, or whatever. I really frown on that. I don't like it because, number one, this is a hobbyist. We're just all sharing the same passion. And number two, you have no idea what personal struggles that somebody might be going through, and this is their outlet, this is their release. So that's really what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. That's awesome. So you talked about the team kind of formed around the majors, or Pacific majors at the time. Does your team do much outside of the majors?
A little bit here and there, but really not much. Most of the team only has enough time for the majors, and that's it. And then right now, this year, there's some of us that barely have enough time for that. Like Brian Bennett, he's been working literally 80 hours a week since God, I want to say March or April. So he had a little bit more, free time when the season kicked off, and then he landed another contract. He builds those elevators for buildings and things, and at the same time took on a welding class, right? So not I mean teaching a welding class, not learning welding. So so just like that, and then there's other guys that have other stuff going on and whatnot, but we do some official team endurance events occasionally, but and there's a lot of guys that would like to do more. I mean, certainly BB, that's how we affectionately refer to him. We just call him BB. Certainly he's usually down for the team endurance events, as you know, John, since he got a free weekend, and we weren't doing anything for that event, so he teamed up with you guys, which I think is awesome.
That was super cool.
Maybe like to see more of that. I'd like to take part in that too. But we did dip into DGFX one, and I've got past history with that series too, and that just didn't turn out to be a good fit for us. I'm just, I guess, too much of a stickler on race control and yellows management until that's figured out. You won't see me back in there, but they do the best they can. I know that, and I got a lot of respect for Kyle and that whole crew. And anyway, other than that, let's see. We've I think Clement and I were going to do the Geo GoPro series this year. Clement ended up running it, and I ended up just working the box for him because I didn't want to take on too much. Just get back into too much seat time as the majors is demanding enough. And but currently there's no real aspirations for Alliance, to go take on the Red Lines and Coandas of the service right now. Nor do we have the alien talent for that.
Well, you guys are pretty good, especially as a team, right? You guys have held off some pretty strong challenges over the past couple of years. Got any secrets you want to share with the enemies?
Yeah, the hated Mercedes of the majors, right? Those Alliance guys.
Yeah, that's funny. So yeah, absolutely. And what I'm going to share really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But the number one thing required is hard work, and we put in the hard work for every single event, as much time as we can, as much time as everybody individually has available to do on it. And it's not like I'm cracking a whip or no. Alliance is not a micromanaged team. Everybody does just what they can, and there's certain expectations that is more like character factors or moral factors, but dedication, attention to detail. Both BB and I are ex-Marines, and so we do, pull in the Marine Corps ethos a lot, which is adapt, improvise, and overcome, right? In the majors, you have to do that a lot, right? So be willing to evolve your racecraft, learn telemetry, learn setups, we spread the workload out, so it's not one guy, that's always building the setups for every single car. We spread the workload out, so that way it prevents the team from getting burned out, from one guy getting burned out. So that's important. Lifting each other up, whether that's just in spirits, from a personal life, whatever, and we share everything together. We all, have been racing together so long now in this that, there's just a genuine bond there among all of us. And I think the new guys that come on have really seen that. And, some have latched on to that, and some really haven't, they're more keep to themselves as far as the new guys that came in this year. And that's okay, right? Maybe it's not for everybody.
But one of the biggest things is harvest points. Don't quit. If your day's not going well, but you're in the pro split, then keep going. Especially with that 80% rule this year. Harvest points, and if not, work the box for your mates if you can't race.
Yeah, and it seems every round, even if one of your guys has a bad race, somebody else steps up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You always have that next man up mentality. It seems.
Yep, absolutely. That's one of the secrets. That's one of the keys. So, everything I shared everything that really makes Alliance what it is and
Sure.
how it works, and I hope that benefits those other team guys listening, and if there's other guys that wish they were on a team like that, right, or they don't have a team, then well, go after it, form your own, and build something great.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, don't let that stop you, right? All of these teams they started somewhere. They started with a couple of guys just having a conversation and saying, hey, let's try this. Let's try working together.
Yep.
And so I encourage anybody that's not on a team or maybe is afraid of even approaching a team, start there or start your own.
Yep. Like how UDOX has come together and what they're doing this season is awesome. I just want to give a huge shout out to those guys. I'm super proud of all of them, what they're accomplishing this year and how they're really, taking it after the series. Look at Warling and Thunhorst here, 0.06 of a second, duking it out for the championship, and they're on the front row. You couldn't script it better. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. Anyone who thinks about should I form a team or should I try and get into a small team and do something, they just need to look at Unorthodox and see how those guys have sorted things out, and they've just been awesome.
It's like got Kevin Hill on the track. Speaking of Orthodox, UDOX, we call them UDOX.
What do you call us?
Just Kinetic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, kind of back to the majors. You've seen it all, and over the past few years, there have been some fairly huge changes. Can you get into what do you love or hate about how the league has changed?
Yeah, absolutely. There's three things. I was just going to go through the top stuff, but there's top three things that I love about it. Number one are my teammates and the friendships that I've formed from being a part of this and, surviving through all the change. Number two is the racing and the competition, because if you're not racing against somebody better and faster than you, you're not growing. And number three is the prestige elevation of what Mike's built here, and he keeps elevating it, right, and keeps raising it, and we're syndicated on the iRacing Esports Network now, and that's awesome, and it's global now, and it keeps growing, and so the prestige is elevated. I don't hate maybe a strong word, but I'll go with things that I dislike, right? This season it came to a head, and we had it out mid-season, but one hit wonders in the pro split, the guys that, and I'm only talking about not Liam, right, but the guys with no aspirations or intents or the rounded talent to compete in the entire series. It mires the integrity of the championships, or it can, at least it introduces the possibility of the potential for that. So but some changes were done to maybe address that this year. I'd like to see it shored up even farther next year, because, at this level now, it's about the championships, right? And you want that to be based purely on the competition that signs up from round 1 through round 12, in my opinion. And the second thing is that there's probably not enough visibility and exposure given to the sportsman guys anymore due to the cost of that. but that's something that's easily fixable. Maybe even Wade, you and I teaming up together and doing a broadcast on the sports split replay, or like the top sportsman split replay, every week. If that's something you'd entertain, that's something we could talk about doing.
Certainly something we should talk about.
Yeah, that could be fun, right? And then, well, I guess, yeah, that's really it. Oh, no, I do have one other point, and that's my big point. So I would like to see change in the outdated World Cup race week format, personally. I'd like to see just 2 days of qual, maybe only Wednesday and Thursday, and like the rest of the world does it, 3 practice sessions. So P1, P2, P3, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Of course, different practice sessions, ideal for each region's time slot. Maybe even, you just have 2 Q sessions just to set the splits only, and then have a qualifying session to actually set the grid for each event on race day. I think that would, because that lines more up, up more with how iRacing is doing it now. And obviously it lines up more with the real world. And I don't think we need the week-long, World Cup format anymore. I know why it's that way, because Mike always ran the World Cup, right? But it's probably time to retire that and move on, in my opinion. Any opinions on that one, John?
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot in the competition committee, and we are going to make some big changes to the qualifying format for next year. Probably not along the lines that you suggested, but certainly we want to encourage people to qualify earlier and concentrate on the race setup much earlier in the week than they seem to do now. So there are going to be some changes coming. I think what we tried something different for Indy this year, where we had a cutoff for the top 10 on Wednesday or something of the week, and that seemed to work pretty well. And I think that we might see something similar to that for a lot of the races next year.
Yeah, I think I appreciated how that worked for Indy. It makes sense, especially those high downforce, oval packages, right, where every thousandth counts. Because you could just spend the entire week on trying to get into the pro split, easily.
Yeah.
So
and I think
go ahead.
we definitely need to get people into race mode as early in the week as we can, rather than qualify mode. So I think we'll try something next year, and see if that's better. But yeah, I agree with you. We need to move along from the let's have a quali session every day for a week. That really doesn't seem to be necessary to me.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of sessions just staying empty, or just 1 or 2 running it, and there's a lot of practice sessions staying empty as well. So I think we're just wasting money.
Yeah, those ones, the qualifying sessions up until Wednesday are literally ghost towns. No one ever joins them.
Right, Roy, would you? You don't know if you're fast enough yet to make it worthwhile to run that early. So, yeah.
So one of the changes to the series, basically, and you touched on this a bit when you talk about the team, but basically forced you to split your team up and kind of bring on some development guys and change the way that you guys run the team. How did that change your team dynamics for you?
It does, and it does it right. I mean, new personalities into the fray always bring new influences on onto the dynamics. Some positive, some negative, but With this thing where, your main connection to everybody really is Discord, find the guys that aren't really, I guess, getting on with the whole team program, right? They're just not around that much, right? They just don't interact with you. So it really doesn't have that big of an impact or influence on it. And it definitely doesn't influence, the essence of how we do things. But yeah, a lot of guys this year haven't worked out to my expectations or even their own. And some of the guys that we also took on were recruited by other team members, and I'm not going to go, calling out any names here right now. It's not prudent, right? It's
Sure.
not the right thing to do, but I think I'll go back to handpicking guys myself. And so shameless plug here. If you're listening to this, you're interested in joining Alliance for 2020, send me a PM and I'll get you an application and we'll have a look at you.
Awesome. So, as far as this race goes, how's Alliance looking? How you feeling? I know that this was for a lot of guys a handful, but on the other hand, there are some guys like John that just seem to take to it.
Yeah, pretty solid actually. Which I'm surprised at. I mean, this is one of the events on the schedule I was a little bit leery about, a little bit nervous about. Oh, not leery, but nervous, right? Because nobody has any experience with the Lotus 49. Well, most of us don't have any experience with Milwaukee on the team. And I think there's a couple guys that did. Thunhorse, he's run on Milwaukee before, and Callisto, I believe. But we seem to get a handle on the car pretty quickly. There's a number of us, right, that have evolved into some pretty competent setup builders. And so it didn't take us too much time to convert that baseline road course set into a oval set that handled pretty good for Milwaukee. And I love the race set we developed. I'm super excited about it. I struggle with the Q set though.
So you're expecting a lot of cautions?
No, actually, I'm not. I think it's going to be kind of like Michigan, especially with limited to the top 25. Who, the way this is shake out, you can't get into the top 25 if you don't have a handle on the car.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be great. I think it'll be another kind of a repeat of Michigan, and I'm going to knock on some wood so that I don't jinx that, because I'd love to see a completely green flag. And if we get a yellow, sweet, and if not, we'll be good.
Yeah, actually, we're of like minds there. I think that we, as a group in the America's Pro Split, proved. And I use that word purposefully, prove that this can be done. That if you look at the first half of that Michigan race, there was give and take, and it led to some really good racing.
Oh, that race was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Hopefully we have more of the same.
It was definitely one of the most intense oval races that I've ever been in. And yeah, absolutely, definitely very respectful. I got punted out of the top 10 at the the last restart, right? But that's to be expected. It was I think it was Daniel who bumped to pass, right? So I was on the inside. He wanted that inside, obviously. We all know how that turned out. But I got bumped up to the middle lane and just went backwards because I had to get out of the throttle to not wreck everybody. So, but it was fun.
Well, Jason, I appreciate you coming in.
To add to what Jason said there, I'm just looking through the current list. Obviously, it doesn't include this last qualifying session, but there's often been stuff said about what a huge advantage the big teams have got with setup building and stuff like that. And I honestly don't think that this race is so much about setup building. It's about logging laps and working to work out how to drive the car and all that stuff. And if you look down the list in Americas, it is all the guys that we know work hard. So the unorthodox guys, the Alliance guys, the Kinetic guys, and the Dog Bear guys. And the race is almost exclusively those four teams. With a few other good guys thrown into the mix as well. So I think the race is going to be awesome, really, really awesome, because I think all the people in the Americas Pro Split are good racers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Not necessarily fast, but good racers.
Absolutely agree.
Well, Jason, thank you for joining us in the episode. You're welcome to hang around now that we've got the technical issues fixed. I'm going to jump back to John and ask a few majors. Put your competition hat on, John. Let's talk some majors. In episode 1,
yeah. I just want to say thanks.
Yeah,
thanks,
absolutely.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. And I am going to stick around and stick out the show with you.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. So, John, Le Mans 24. Is there anything else that you can tell us? Have things been finalized? Are we ready to go? Locked in?
Yeah. So the big question when we talked about it before was whether we were going to run cautions or not, and we've decided, sort of alluding to what Jason said earlier about DGFX and the race control and cautions in that. I ran my first DGFX race for 4 years. A month or so ago, and it made me realize that cautions in multi-class on iRacing are just painful. So we're not going to have cautions in the Le Mans 24 again. We'll just run a straight race. So it's basically a done deal now. The other thing I was mulling about before is what to do about incident counts and how to control that and stuff. And I think I've got a pretty good handle on that. I think we've got enough resources between the top teams and the organizing committee and stuff that we can have a live admin or two all the way through the race just to keep an eye on incidents and give people penalties if we need to. So that stuff's going to happen. So it's going to be the same as last year, but a little bit more admin control. The one thing we didn't do last year was there was one car that was a little bit dangerous, shall we say, and we didn't react fast enough to that. And I think we need to do something to make sure that we do something if we see someone that looks dangerous on track, and we can do that fairly easily. We're also going to have proper majors type practices and minimum laps and things like that, so that will help as well. But basically, same as last year.
Great.
Sounds good.
And that's mid-December, right?
Yeah, the 14th or something. I can't quite remember. But yeah, second weekend of December, I think.
Great. How about the sports series? Are we all set, ready to go for next year with that?
Yeah, so the support series is going to be pretty much exactly as it's been running for the last 6 weeks or so, the last 6 months or so. So completely mimicking the main races, but with fixed sets, because that's worked really well. The one big change, and some people won't like this, is that the support series will no longer offer free MCPI. It's a real pain in the butt for Wayne to calculate it. But what we will need to do is work on another way of people getting their licenses back if they lose them. So we're thinking about that now.
So your laps will count as practice, but you won't be able to farm MCPI there.
Yeah, correct.
Great.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't think that really really works as intended.
No, and it means that you get some people in the support races that are there, literally to try and roll around at the back of the race and collect MCPI points, and it almost always doesn't work because they run at the back and then there's a wreck in front of them and they drive into it. So it's we want to see. We want to see people prove their ability to race, not prove their ability to drive around the track.
Yeah.
So we're gonna change that up. But the support series has been fantastic this year. I think we're up to 280 different participants, and it's worked. It's been working really, really good. Just going back to something that Jason said earlier on about the sportsman guys. One small change that you're going to see real soon is for those people that look at the stats on the website, where we show who's won races and stuff like that. I've just added last week. I added the sportsman races and the support races to that list as well. So Mike's going to have a filter that shows the pro class winners, and then another filter for the sportsman winners, and another filter for the support race winners. So that's just something small that will be nice for the sportsman guys. They'll be able to see who's won races in the sportsman categories.
Breaking news. While we were talking about that, Kevin Hill ran 2 laps and then sat in the pit box for a really long
plus
time.
minutes.
Yeah, I think burn and fuel, right? And then, which is something I never thought about doing. But then he came back out and ripped off a 29.802, so he's in, definitely in.
Yeah, well, I can give away a slight secret that some people obviously didn't realize this week is after about 18 minutes of these qualifying sessions, the temperature dropped by 1 degree.
Oh, we saw that. Yeah. Well, it starts out at 113 when it
and it drops
launches.
Yeah, it drops straight down to 112 and then goes to 111. And I think that right at the end of the session, it drops down a little bit more. So maybe that's what Kevin was doing. He was waiting for it to drop down a little bit.
Yeah, I think it'll go to 110, and this is the dynamic track changes, right? Where they got the latent heat and the multi-layers. That's what's doing that. And I was actually better. My set was better at 112, and I waited too long and ran it at 111. So I was pushing like a tank, or overdriving it. Probably both.
Okay, and also back to the support series. One thing I desperately want to do is, and this is really a follow up from the survey that we did, where one of the real common comments was, let's do more team races. So one of the things I want to do next year is run a really simple team event, just on the road courses, of course, where we probably the best time slot for it is the old Atlantic time slot. So 3 hours before the Pacific time slot, and fit it into that on the weekend that the current support races take place. So 3-hour team races in, I can't decide yet whether it's going to be one set of cars, or as close to the cars that we use as possible for the main event. I think probably just one set of cars, and maybe even fixed setup, and just run that mainly for the sportsman guys. So I'll restrict the teams to one pro driver, and just make a little bit of fun for the guys that don't necessarily run team events, and just let them learn about the processes and stuff. And I will stick in cautions there occasionally, just to let people experience what they're like.
They're
Yeah,
slow.
a good a good pro-am series that is true to, you know, real life pro-am is what that sounds like, and I think that's something that's kind of been missing, or at least I haven't seen it across iRacing.
Yeah, you know, the cars. What I'd really love to run as the cars is the pilot cars. So a GT4 plus the TCR, but where I don't think we're going to have the GT4 in time. So it's going to have to. It's probably going to end up being the TCR plus something else. But I haven't decided what that something else is yet. Probably a GT3 or something.
Yeah, I almost wonder if the
Just
GT3 Cup
something.
might be a good uh, spot there.
Yeah, but what I want is something that's, you know, easy to
Sure.
drive.
ABS.
People can really can concentrate on driving and the experience and the process of doing team races. And the GT3 is probably the obvious choice for that, and probably just restricted to the Mercedes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's no BOP issues or anything like that. So we'll see, you know, but we'll definitely try that. If it doesn't work, we'll just can it. But we'll have a go.
So sticking on the train of thought of next year, and John, maybe you can't answer this. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues with Mike's audio, and he wasn't able to rejoin. But I know that we can't or we don't know fully what next year's schedule looks like. But are there any teasers that maybe you can give to us on Mike's behalf?
I guess the one significant change is that next year we're back to 7 road and 7 oval races, which is cool. And we've pretty much got the schedule done now, but we won't release it until the end of the season. But it looks cool. It's good variety, but we're also sticking to the core stuff a little bit more than we have before. But there's still plenty of variety. The one thing that we've shied away from a little bit on the oval side is running too many cup car races, because that current package is a bit of a dog for racing. So you'll probably see an extra IndyCar race on the schedule rather than an extra NASCAR race.
Woohoo!
We could just run this Lotus 49 everywhere.
Ooh.
That would work as well.
Says the guy that just came out of the box really fast.
You might see it on the schedule again next year.
Ooh, that's interesting. So speaking of being fast in this, John, I wanted to ask you earlier. You got into your international race. It went well for you. It went well for the team. Can you share a little bit? I know you made one little comment on Discord this week about pulling just karting experience out. Can you talk to that a little bit? How you maybe pulled that out of the back of your brain and were able to utilize that in the race?
Yeah, what I realized after a couple of days practice is that this car and track combination, basically the car behaves like a go-kart. It wants to understeer all the time, but as soon as you get on the power, the back end wants to overtake the front. And once I realized that, and I started to drive it like I used to drive karts, it became much easier for me. I'm too old to be really, really fast these days, and I'm probably a little bit too careful as well. I'm more scared of spinning than I am of setting a fast time. But the way I drove it was exactly the way I used to drive my 125cc kart. So, get it settled nicely into the corner. Get a little bit of power on it halfway around the corner, just to get it used to driving out of the corner, and then point it as straight as you can off the corner and let the grip happen rather than trying to fight it. And that worked really well for me. And it was interesting yesterday in the international race that I was on the broadcast a lot because I was fighting with people so much, and you could see that I was taking a much narrower line off the turns and getting the car straightened out much earlier than most people. And for most of the time, you could see I was getting much better drive off the corners than most of the drivers. And our setup helped as well, of course. But I really do think that this car and track combo is more about the way you drive it than the setup.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the fact that you can't just throw it, right? You've got to be deliberate with what you do and how you do it to be fast and to not end up in the wall or spinning to space.
Well, Cam Dance was throwing it in yesterday, and he was going pretty quickly, and he seemed to be able to control it. But I think he found his inner sprint car self and was driving it like a sprint car for half the race. And it was fun racing with him, but he was a nightmare to follow because he was literally sideways for most of the corners. So trying to get up behind him to line up a pass was really, really difficult.
Yeah, because every entry you're wondering, okay, is this the one he loses and I plow into him?
Yeah, well, and he was going into the corners much deeper than me, getting it sideways, and then almost parking it at the apex to get it all sorted out again, and then put in and then full right foot again and getting it sideways coming off the corner as well. And what
like an extreme diamond.
Yeah, it was difficult to follow him, but what was even worse was when he was behind you, because I could run faster laps than Cam if I could settle into a rhythm, but he never let me settle into a rhythm because I could see him getting real close to me on the corner entry, and then again sort of 3/4 of the way around the corner. So at the end of the race, he was a couple of laps down, but him and someone else were dicing for like 11th or 12th place, and I was involved in this fight for 3rd place, and we were all on track together. And it was a nightmarish fun event. But yeah, the different styles were interesting, really, really interesting.
Did you happen to catch Chris Pence's try here, Wade?
I did, and I apologize to anybody that's actually watching the stream. I've got a gyro cam set up, and it was sickening.
That's classic. That looked like a rage qual.
Yeah,
to me.
Yeah.
I don't think Chris is a fan of the car.
It certainly doesn't seem like it. No.
No, it didn't. Not from that finish. No. Yeah, this car takes time, takes laps. I mean, there's certain things like that. There's certain cars and events and tracks and combinations that just take laps, even for guys that are proficient in them.
Well, it looks like the session is wrapping up, and that means that we'll wrap up this podcast. I want to thank Jason Fleischli from Alliance Racing for joining us today. And as always, John King. Unfortunately, again, we had a little technical issue with Michael Lett. We'll get him on again in the future. And make sure to check out RaceSpot TV and GSRC tomorrow for the European and America splits.
Thanks, guys. Good luck. See ya.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Jason, we'll have a chat about that support race stuff at some point. You, me, and Wade. See what we can do.
Yep.